We know life can be messy, and that's why you need a plan. Here at the Lifestyle Group, we want to meet you where you are in life and help you create the best home remodeling plan for your lifestyle. To us, plan is more than just a word. It's an acronym we live by for our clients. To always be prepared, to lead you through the process, to adapt to what you need, and to make sure there are no surprises. Each month on the Do You Plan podcast, we'll look into home remodeling projects that have inspired us, taught us, or can teach you for your future home remodel.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Good to see you.
You too. Very good to see you. I've told you once before, but I've always been a fan from afar because we never really met until probably a handful of months ago. I made Scott and Corey introduce me to you when you came down one day.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. And so I've been looking forward to this conversation. I wanted to talk to you maybe more about non-work stuff than work stuff because you have such an interesting story too, as I've come to learn a little bit about. But can you talk to me about just go back to when you were younger and how you migrated to a path where you do the amazing work that you do today with hand drawing these designs that turn into these beautiful structures? Like, were you always artistically oriented? Did you just do it for fun? How did you migrate to this?
You know, I get asked that question a lot. And I was one of those lucky guys that I knew I was going to do this when I was a little kid.
Really?
And I mean, second, third grade. Yeah, I remember, in early schooling and it was just, I would sketch when I should have been doing other things. And so I was that out of control kid. And I could never just sit still and watch TV. I was always sketching something and buying the old, magazines that you get at the drugstore of these house plans and looking at them and thinking how I could do that better. And then I would just continue to sketch. And it was a great avenue for me to help develop it later on, which I didn't realize, at the time, how important hand sketching is. Because, a lot of the kids I've been having different groups from different colleges in the area come in and they can't draw.
Right.
And they do the computer, which is great. That's wonderful, but they also can't sell it and get the enthusiasm that the client wants. And, sometimes I'll be sketching upside down with a client across from me. And I do expensive homes. And so the clients are paying a fee. So they want something special and unique, not just, hitting that button and here you go.
Yeah.
And, so from just day one, I would just sit there, like I said, and sketch in the mornings or sketch when I'm watching TV or whatever it may be.
Did you like to play with Legos, put things together, or was it more about the idea of just drawing it and creating it?
Oh, Lincoln Logs,
anything,
anything that I could put together. I was with blocks. My dad used to make little blocks and I'd put them together and make little buildings or little subdivisions on the family room floor. I guess I was that weird kid. But
when it came to other subjects, like math, were you inclined to be drawn toward the math side of it too?
No, in fact, I was very horrible at the math.
Okay.
And I started out at Ball State and I couldn't finish the program because my math aptitude was not where it should be. I had the artistic and the talent.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get through the engineering and the math. And I found out later in life that, I'm very dyslexic. And that was why. I was just I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get that type of mathematics and engineering down like some of the other guys could.
So have you since learned how to address that?
Oh yeah, it's just you have to have a different mindset.
You had to learn how to learn it, right?
You had to learn how to learn it. It just didn't come natural. It made it harder.
Yeah.
But my ability to sketch and my personality, which is I try to get everybody so enthusiastic through the design process.
Yeah.
That's what makes it. Because there's a lot of guys out there a lot more talented than me, but they're also very stoic. And
it's interesting. We have two mutual relationships that I value a lot. One being Scott and Corey with Franklin Window and Door, but also I think a lot of Nigel Hoss and the folks over at Hoss Homes.
Sure.
And I was talking to Nigel about you just in preparation for this. And I'm like, what are some things that
Well, this will be interesting.
Oh yeah, no, right, exactly. What are some things that you think are most interesting about Gary? And he said two things that jumped out at me or that stick with me. The first thing that he said is he's never seen somebody with your ability to engage with a client, listen to what a client is saying, and turn it back to them visually, but mostly being able to excite them and create exactly what they had in their head, even if they couldn't effectively communicate it. It was almost like you could see what they were seeing and then show it back to them.
That was very nice of Nigel.
Yeah, it's very, very nice of him. I thought that was interesting because there is probably a lost art of being able to interact with people when you're just trying to show them stuff that you can do for them and you want that stuff to sell itself. Or my perception could be slightly different, which is there are many people in your industry that would want to create the drawings for themselves and not for the client, right? So exciting the client is like you're creating these beautiful things and you could step back and look at this and go, God, look at what I just did. This is amazing. And the client might be like, yeah, that's not what I wanted. But Nigel says you are really, really good at giving the client exactly what they want, even when they don't even know it.
Well, with that said, it's always the client's project.
Yes.
So I always start out, you can't give me enough information. I'm here to provide them a service. It's their house.
Yep.
I'm here to guide them down that path. And sometimes I'll agree, sometimes I don't agree. But, we get to point A and they're happy about it. And, it comes down to not just laying out the floor plan. It's how everybody lives.
Exactly.
And storage and different things. And the one thing about Nigel and the Haas team is, there's a lot of custom builders out there that they can't build my work.
Right.
And it's not that it's difficult. It's just a different approach.
Yeah.
And they do a tremendous job. They made me look really good.
Because you're essentially creating a visual and thinking through the function and then turning it over to them and saying, make this work, right? Figure out how to bring this to life, even if we haven't seen it before.
One of the funniest lines that we tease each other about, meaning the Haas team, is, well, about 12 years ago, we were doing this very contemporary house. It's still quite the house out at Geist. And I remember showing it to Steve, and he goes, how are we going to do that? And I pointed to my watch. I said, Steve, see this watch? I don't care how it works, but see how good it looks? You've got to get to that on product. How you get there, that's up to you. And we go back and forth on that. That comes up at least once a month.
Oh, yeah.
Or we're not in Kansas anymore, buddy.
Yeah.
We're doing a different format. Because, the clientele now, especially the younger, moneyed crowd, they travel, they see everything. They don't want the same old stuff.
Yeah.
Where some of these new subdivisions are going up now in the area. My God, I don't know how they find out which home is theirs when they get home.
Right.
Even though they're expensive, there's nothing. There's nothing really spectacular and unique. There's a lot of great stuff out there. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of it is the same old. Follow the little ducklings down the road.
So where do you get your inspiration? Does it just come from within, or are you constantly observing things as you travel, or as you're just in your surroundings and you're pulling elements of things and creating your own?
All of the above. I read a lot of magazines and travel magazines and different things that help, see what's out there. And, resorts are a good key. And, it comes from travel and I've got projects going outside of Nashville and Franklin, Tennessee. And, there's so many cool classic old homes down there. And how do you interpret that, or the Carolinas or Buckhead in Atlanta, north side of Chicago is amazing. The old drive up there and taking some of those classic houses and interpreting them in a new way.
Yeah. Has that been an evolution for you to kind of start in this market area, and then as your reputation has grown, you've started to travel? Or have you always had relationships in other markets, and then that's just further grown what you've done here?
Well, years ago, and I didn't plan it, I was lucky enough that I got into the lake resort market.
Okay.
And when the economies would fluctuate, that group never pulled back.
Mm-hmm.
They've always got money to spend.
Yeah. And
so you go to these different lakes, and so from this city or that state. Well, who's that? And that's what got me out of state. About 40% of my business now is out of state.
So do you find yourself traveling 40% of the time, or is it just hit and miss?
It's probably about 20% of the time I'm traveling.
Yeah.
And, but it makes it fun because you're exposed to different things.
Yeah. I was laughing when I talked to Scott and Corey, and I asked Corey, I said, how did you meet Gary? And she said, we invited him to Italy. And I said, you what? And she said, we literally invited him to go to Italy with us. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. No, she said, no, we really did. And that's when we met him.
True story. Taylor's my daughter who also runs the office. She does a tremendous job. The clients love her. Yeah. And she goes, there's these people, they have this window company and they want to take us to Italy. I'm like, what? Who are they? Like, this is insane. This can't be real. And I met them the day before we were to leave to go to Italy for 6 days. And ever since then, we've bonded and it's been great.
And did that trip turn something on in your business that's different than what you did?
Well, it did. It was hosted by the Okias people, this book laying right here, and another window company that we toured. Mm-hmm. So we got a lot of exposure that way. And just about this time last year, they put this book out internationally. There's only, I don't know, maybe 24 or a dozen and a half of people represented throughout the world in it, and we're in it. So I was pretty excited.
And has that turned into something else for you then, opportunity-wise?
Well, it does, because people say, "Wait a minute, there's this project featured in Carmel, Indiana, and the other one is in L.A. and the other one's in New York, and the rest are throughout the world."
Yeah.
What
gives me, who is this guy? And now all of a sudden,
gives me a little more credibility.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, your business, I want to tie this next question into kind of your personal story, because you had your business for years, but then you've kind of gone through like 2 life-changing health things from what I understand, right?
That's true.
And I'm interested in how that has ebbed and flowed with your business.
Well, even though they were tough at the time, it's helped evolve my business even better. I went from a guy that weighed almost 300 pounds and had a lot of health issues, kidney issues, and this and that. And my wife got me into this one little gym and started losing weight. And one thing led to another. And so I took the fitness thing to a whole nother level. And it took a while. But once I understood that's going to make me look better and it's going to facilitate my clients better, because, it's a visual business.
Yeah.
And, they want somebody that's on it. And, I had one client who said, Gary, I was looking at you thinking, okay, he's taking care of himself. He's going to take care of me. And I was like, wow, that meant a lot.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then unfortunately, when I got COVID, which I was shocked that I got it first and then got it so bad being in such great shape.
Yeah.
But they realized later on, I had a issue of I used to get strep throats and all that. So when I was a kid, so I had an imbalanced immune system, but didn't know it. And so I was a perfect host for the COVID. So when it hit, there was a Sunday afternoon, the gyms had just closed. And there were 10 of us that had done put in a challenge for a push-up challenge, 60 push-ups in 1 minute. And it was $1,000 a guy. It was for the Wounded Warriors. And so we made a quick 10 grand. Next morning, I wake up, I have a fever of 101. Tuesday, so that was Monday. Tuesday, I go in, I have a collapsed left lung. I've got pneumonia. I'm like, what? And we test you for COVID. Thursday, you've got COVID. Go home, you'll be fine. Sunday, I'm in an ambulance, barely able to breathe, heading to the hospital. And within 2 hours, I don't even remember the ambulance ride. All I remember are the doors closing. That's it. And nothing, I remember nothing for 22 days. I was instantly put into an induced coma, on the ventilator for 18 days. Then rehab for another 2 weeks. I was in a wheelchair for 2 weeks. I couldn't walk. I couldn't hold a pencil. I thought, God, my career's over.
Holy cow.
And then had to walk with a cane for 9 weeks. lost over 50 pounds. And part of what helped me was, family and prayers, of course.
Right.
And a lot of support from family, friends, and clients. And also that I was in good shape, because had I been that 300-pound guy, I would have died.
Right.
And they were going to pull the plug one day when I was in there on the 11th day.
Really?
Because they didn't see me getting any better. So that's been a whole new outlook on life.
And like around what time? When was that? How long
was
ago?
April of 20.
Okay. So, and now you're back to like full
board,
completely healthy.
I get, there's a little damage to the lungs, but I'm.
But I mean, look great, feel good.
Oh yeah,
doing all those things. That's
Absolutely.
Amazing. When you go through something like that, does it change your? So like I just turned 51. Okay. I think as you get older, you start to think a little bit more about time and you understand the finite nature of it. You obviously understand it even to a greater level for sure. But I start thinking more about time and trade-offs and
sure.
Has it changed your approach on work-life balance, or you're like, no, let's just go?
Well, I'm excited that I'm able to go.
Yeah, exactly. You appreciate it, right?
Grateful every day.
Yeah.
Much more so than I've ever been. And, family and faith is what's most important. And then it has put a different outlook on my approach to business. I don't let things, I know Taylor will laugh at this, but I try not to let things get to me like they did before. Mm-hmm. It's not worth it. Nobody's going to die that their house didn't get framed on time.
Did you sweat the details before?
Oh my God. I still do, but in a different format. Mm-hmm. And, because I'm lucky to be alive. Yeah. The doctors to this day say they don't know why I made it. And so that will open your eyes, because I'll be 69 this August.
Okay.
And, people are like, wait a minute, look at you. You're going full speed.
You look like you're 51.
And, thank you. And, and part of it is just, this whole approach towards health and happiness, which sounds so trite and so overdone, but it means a lot.
I don't think it is. I still, to this day, on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'm going to Lifetime Fitness in Castleton. And I am playing basketball with my young 20-something buddies, and they'll beat the hell out of me, and I'll run them up and down the court, and they'll get tired of chasing me. And I know there'll be a day where I can't do it, and I'll have to figure something else out. But I do think you have to take that time. Oh, that's my me time too. I mean, I'm leaving at 4. I'm playing until I'm done. When I get home, and that's my decompressed time too. I think it makes me better at work.
Oh, you have to.
It makes me better at home.
It's funny at the gym I go to, MEI over on 96th Street, which is the best gym in town. And some of the younger guys, they call me Pops.
Yeah.
They come up and ask questions.
Yeah.
And even though I've got a great trainer that works with me when I'm there, but people are kind of surprised, like you mentioned, that.
We still bounce around and do things.
Still going at it.
No, I think it actually, in a silly way, I look at you, and then Scott's gotten in such good shape too over the years. I told him, I'm like, man, you're looking too good. You're making me feel bad about myself.
Well, did he tell you we're in a contest at the Palladium July 30th?
Yeah.
So
working
Carmel,
hard.
we're gonna put on a show for everybody.
Oh, that'll be fun. But I do think it's there is something to if you feel better, you act better. You
have to, because the stress level of this business it'll put you under.
Yeah.
And, you have the demands of the clients, and rightfully so. They're paying a lot of money and they want service. And at this level that I deal with, they expect everything right now.
How do you approach a typical project? Because I literally have no idea. So let's say somebody engages you for a potential project. What's a traditional path of how that flows for you?
Well, I'll get their list of wants, and they'll do a Pinterest account or a house account. Just show me what it is you're after. And I always tell the people, you can't give me enough information. Just show me. And it could be, pictures A through Z. Yeah. And I said, don't sweat over the details. God, if I show this picture, it's completely different than that one. Right. I'll filter through and get it, because there is a consistency that they don't see.
Yeah.
And we typically have our first design meeting within 2 to 3 weeks of that initial meeting after they've signed the contract and are ready to go.
Okay.
And then I like to keep it going about every 2 weeks. Sometimes they take longer. Sometimes they go, quick. Mm-hmm. And then, I start out putting the floor plans together. And then as that gels, I do the exterior elevations and we go from there. And then usually the Haas team comes in and we kind of start working through initial details before we even get into construction drawings. Now, I don't do the construction drawings myself because I don't have time, nor do I want to do them.
Right.
And so I use 3 different firms that I'll farm them out to. So I've got over 40 projects on the boards right now. So it's time consuming.
So does a typical project take place over 2 to 3 months?
It's believe it or not, it's closer to a year.
Okay, I can't believe it. Yeah, because some of the stuff that you're doing too, they're okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking initial concept to get to a place where you're turning something over to somebody else.
That's usually about 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know on the back end, it's often taking the Haas folks, 3 years to build some of these things, right?
I mean, anymore, with the economy as crazy as it is, but I won't go down that road.
Yeah.
We're ordering appliances and roofing and windows before we've even dug a hole.
Are you involved in speccing that level of detail too? You're beginning
fireplace elevations, working with the kitchen people. I'm, coordinating with the interior designer, and a lot of the clients lean on me. Who should I use for kitchen cabinets? Who should I use for an interior designer? Who should I use for a builder?
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm that guy.
Yeah. You're the point person to give them, you're the traffic cop.
I'm the quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
All the way through. I mean, we've had projects that, when the people move in, they're walking in with the clothes on their back. They're already laid out when they come in, their clothes, plates, silverware, toothpaste in the drawers.
It's done.
It's done. We had one great story up in Walloon, unbelievable client. And so people are so great. And the interior designers out of Chicago were wonderful. And when they moved in, they even had their liquor and everything that they wanted all set. And I remember they moved in around end of September. And the owner called me in 1st of November and said, "Hey, Gary, we're going to spend our first Christmas at the Lake Cottage." And the client lives in Florida. Cottage is up in Walloon in Michigan. And he said, "Can you decorate it for me?" And I said, "Sure, we'll get it going." So got some local people in the Petoskey area. And I made some inquiries of what type of lights, that the missus would want. And they got up there and trees were decorated, wreaths on the doors, the whole bit. Now, it costs a fee to do that.
Sure.
But, they loved it. I remember they called me Christmas Eve and crying on the phone. That means a lot.
That's really nice. So
that's how far we can take it.
Well, and I'm interested. So in my remodeling company, I think we've gone through an evolution where it feels like I always say that my criteria for doing a project for somebody is, are you nice? Are you reasonable? Does your budget match what you want to do? And then if it's small or big, I don't care. If somebody needs a $5,000 something and they're nice and I can help them and I can wiggle it in, I'm going to do it. And if it's big, we'll do that as well. But it seems like it has evolved in such a way that our average project price just organically is continuing to grow and grow and grow. And one of the things that I've found with that in my own experience that I think is a world that you just have lived in for years, which is that people that have that disposable income, there are a lot of very nice, very appreciative people that have the means to pay for these things, but they also understand. I always say they kind of know what their lane is. They like to stay in their lane and they try to bring in good people to help them do the things that they're not good at.
That's true.
And I've been very surprised at how many nice, appreciative, really, really good clients we've managed to work with at that higher price point. Is that generally your experience?
Absolutely. I mean, key thing that you said was nice people.
Yeah.
There's some people out there, not everybody's going to like me.
Yeah.
And I tend to like everyone, But if I tell right away that, oh, this is going to be trouble, it's game over from the start.
Do you put a stop to that?
Yeah, I'll just say, I'm too busy.
Not a fit, try to find the graceful way
to say no.
Yeah. It's
because it's just in these times, people also don't understand how difficult it is.
Yeah.
Just to get the materials and everything going.
Well, and
the permitting process.
Yeah. It's a trite phrase when I say it right now, when I say life's too short with the story you just told, but I mean, it is too short to spend 6 months to a year working with somebody where you just dread that next phone call or that next meeting.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. They'll find somebody that'll fit their needs. Yeah. And it's just, how can you gracefully get them to that place, right?
It's true.
Yeah. What do you tell young people coming into your business or that are interested in the things that you do? How do you see that void that will be left as the people of your generation retire and move on into the sunset? How do you think that void is going to be filled?
Well, I recently had several groups from some local colleges in the design and architecture program come in and tour the office. And I stressed again the ability to sketch in front of the people and personality. And, so many of the people walk around, and there were two people while I was talking that had their head down in their phone. Mm-hmm. And I called them out on it.
Because we never would have done that when we were younger and listened to
And I wanted to explain to them that there's a lot of talent out there. And if you don't have the personality and the ability to sketch, you're never going to make it. Mm-hmm. And be attentive to the people around and have respect, which is part of the whole problem right now with young people.
Agreed.
And even here in the design center, you have to watch how you walk because everybody's got their heads down.
Yeah.
And there's the business to be in the next medical field for neck and shoulder injuries.
Yeah.
But they're just not the way it was. And I feel like I'm some older guy, which I am, but I just wanted to stress to these kids, you've just got to have that enthusiasm and that personality, and not just think you're the coolest guy that's on the face of the earth, because you're not.
Yeah. Nigel told me that one of his favorite things is when you would be in a house with a client talking about something and literally would get and start drawing on the drywall a sketch of what you wanted right there on the wall. And I wonder how many people can do that.
They can't
today.
They can't. And in fact, we'll typically, then take a quick picture because, I've done it before where we've sketched and then, we didn't know it. The next day they come in to paint and they just paint right over it. Yeah. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. But, you go through and start over again. But, these houses, no matter how much design you do in the upfront, they evolved all through construction.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully nothing too major, but it's just part of the process. And with the clientele, as you mentioned, that we have, they travel so much, they see everything much more than I do.
Yeah.
So they're saying, hey, Gary, what about this? And what about that? And you got to stay on the trends too. Health is a big issue. The salt walls in saunas, the lighting is so key, for the color bulbs that can transcend the mood of the day, the sunlight of the day to affect you mentally and physically. Yeah. It's all part of that whole self-being, which I think is really the big deal of the next trend of this business.
And
health orientation.
I think that piece, just the lighting piece, there's probably not a year goes by where lighting isn't evolving or going to a place. We just did something that you may do all the time, and it was the first time we had done it, but backlit an entire fireplace.
Oh, sure.
A beautiful setup, the hearth and all, with beautiful stone, and just the detail that went into that. On the surface, you're like, hey, I'm gonna put lighting behind the fireplace. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you see the process of how that thing goes together. And I mean, it's intense, and helping people to understand the different colors of light and what it's going to do to a space and to a room.
It's a major factor in the designs of homes.
Yeah, it really is.
Absolutely.
you were telling the story about the kids on the phone. Generally, once a year, I'll go talk to high school kids in construction classes for one of my old teachers at Franklin Central. And the first year I learned, in their minds, guest speaker means I can lay my head down or I can get on my phone and I'm not going to pay attention. It took 15 minutes into the first class, and I'll tell you what, teachers have an incredibly difficult job.
Oh, I can't
even imagine. The most exhausted day I have of each year is the day that I go talk to 6 classes and say the same thing over and over.
It's nice that you do that.
But I learned very quickly. I tell them put their backpacks on their chairs, come around and sit on the front of their desk, and then if they're going to fall asleep, they're going over.
That's smart. I'm going to have to remember that.
I just keep them sitting on the front and then just try to engage them the whole time, because I think whoever can get their arms around how to engage young people and teach them our world or our business, whether it's yours on the front end or ours in the implementation of this technology, it's not just somebody who's going to go and swing a hammer and tear some stuff out anymore. I mean, these are very technical jobs that take a lot of effort, a lot of knowledge, a lot of learning, and it's constant evolution, even for young people. They're great careers.
Well, it is. And not only for the kids coming up in the design world, but, in the construction technology courses at high school and schools like Ivy Tech and different people.
Yeah.
These kids don't realize how important they are.
Incredibly important.
And how much money, years ago, it was kind of looked down upon in a way.
Yep.
Or not down, but it just wasn't.
Well, it's been a generation telling every kid they had to go to college, right?
Exactly, which is not the case because, the people that can do something with their hands, they're the ones in high demand.
Yep.
I know this one painting company and they do exclusive wallpapers and they're booked out a year and a half. And to have somebody on a great framing crew and plumbing and electrical, you can write your own ticket.
Absolutely.
But part of it is kids don't want to work that hard. Which is unfortunate. But that's going to be the next downfall of the construction business is the amount of people who qualify and know what they're doing.
Yeah, because that's why I say to the kids, if you will go and put your time in and learn your trade, you will be able to start your own business and write your own ticket in a handful of years. You just have to go dig in.
That's right.
And I think that's the big piece, that teaching that work ethic. I feel like that's the piece that's missing.
I agree.
But it's interesting. I just came across a company. I was sitting in a small business owners meeting for the Builder Association probably 60 days ago. And 2 people from this company called Labor showed up, LABR. And their whole business is on an app. Now they're up and running in Indianapolis market. And it's literally like the Uber of construction. The only requirement is that you have to be able to teach the job that you want them to do in 10 minutes.
Really?
And if you can teach them in 10 minutes, they can come in. And so I could hire somebody to help demo a kitchen. And it could be, I want 3, I'll say college kids, but it might be just somebody that's doing a little side gig, right? And they're going to come in and they're going to do something for a handful of hours. And I can just order that up on an app now.
That's amazing.
It's insane.
That's amazing.
Now, that's not technical knowledge that what we're talking about. But it's still a gateway for people to see what the opportunities are in the industry, I think.
I agree.
Maybe a great way to grow people into it, it would seem.
Interesting.
Yeah, it really is. What do you say to custom builders and remodelers like myself, if you're from your side, from the design side, and you interact with the client? And I know you have like great relationships with the core group of people that you work with, but you've seen a lot of things over the years. If you were to give advice to kind of builders and remodelers, what kind of advice would you give them from your perspective and what you see in today's world?
I think they just have to be more flexible and think out of the box. How's that other way to get from point A to point B than the same old way that everybody else has done it? And how to stay on top of technology and building materials and, all the specifications that are always changing. And also, with the different generations coming up now with renewable resources and how does that work? The people, they want to have this green and everything else. Well, that's great, but it costs a lot of money.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
And so it's educating them that way too. That's a little tough, but I think it's just being flexible and trying to figure out what's new and to be able to take those new products and implement them in what they've learned to date, if that made sense.
Do you, I know you say you're constantly reading. Are you going to classes and conferences and things to learn that stuff, or are you just picking it up wherever you can grab it?
No, I don't have the time or the patience to sit in those very often.
Well, no, and I say that I agree with you, and that's where I sit and look and say, how do we keep up with the changes?
Through magazines and information
and experiences when you're into one and you're like, okay, we got to figure this one out now.
How we're going to get there. And one of my favorite reads is the Wall Street Journal on Fridays. Mm-hmm. That one section on home design and construction and real estate that's just on Friday mornings. That's a great eye opener to what's out there.
Yeah. You're now here in the Indiana Design Center. What's your thought of this place and the vibe and what it does for you and your business?
Oh, I think it's great. It also gives me credibility that, a lot of guys work out of their homes, and that's fine, or a smaller, venue, but it's a relaxed atmosphere. There's a team here. We're all here to help each other. It gets down to, hey, the printer's not working. Well, so-and-so is good with that, and just the energy that I have, with the kitchen people that are in here and of course, Scott and Corey with the windows and it just flows well.
Yeah.
And the clients, they come in, there's underground parking, there's outdoor parking. They can grab something at Le Peep or on their way in and out. And it's just nice. It's a great atmosphere. We feed each off.
Have you always been in the Carmel area with your business?
Yes.
How have you seen Carmel in general evolve in your time here?
Well,
it's amazing.
It is amazing. In fact, we just moved in our new house right on Main Street, right off just north of Main Street, right on the Monon. And I remember walking by, we bought the lot maybe 8 years ago. And thank God we did, because I couldn't afford it now. And, looking at this one dilapidated house and kept eyeing it, and then just called and was able to get it. And we tore it down, and then, construction got delayed and, finances and different things. And then I got sick, but we just moved in about a month ago. And I just love the energy, because downtown Carmel reminds me of the lake resorts that I do a lot of houses, Petoskey or Charlevoix or on the East Coast. You've got that downtown atmosphere and the shops and the restaurants, and within, I can be at Monterey's front door in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just neat to take a walk, and you feel like you're on vacation. I mean, Brainerd and the Carmel team just. It's hands down. There's nobody better in the country.
I have to admit, I grew up Southsider. I went to Franklin Central when I was young, went to IU, came back, lived on the South Side most of my life. And then my wife works up by the Pyramids area on the Northwest side. And so we kind of made a decision to make a move. And I'm like, this was, I'll say, pre-Expressway with Keystone. And with my remodeling business for years, all I knew is when I came up to Carmel, I was going to be stoplight all the way up Keystone. And so I would just kind of roll my eyes at the process, right? And then, of course, because I was a Southsider, it was like, Carmel. I rolled my eyes again, right? Because that's what we had to do.
Carmel
we
mystique.
Were raised that way, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then when we moved up to the kind of 79th and Dean Road area in that Keystone at the Crossing zone, I was like, man, this is really nice. I'm like 5 minutes from everything.
Yeah. Easy access.
Yet, invariably, it would be, let's go up to walk the Monon in Carmel. Let's go up and go to a restaurant in Carmel.
Sure.
And so early COVID, May of 2020, we ended up moving up here. So I'm a relative neighbor on that street between Woody's and Juniper straight up.
Okay, gotcha.
And so we bought one of the homes up there, and it's the same way. I mean, I love walking to restaurants. I love walking everywhere. Yeah. And it's funny that my wife, we would walk back up the Monon sometimes so she could peek through it, what was going on with your house, which I didn't know was your house.
Oh, really?
Looking through the trees, like, what are they doing there? She
now the trees are out, you can barely see it.
Yeah, she couldn't see. Yeah. So it was kind of funny.
We'll get you guys in.
Yeah, very funny. But it is very nice. And when we moved up here, one of the neighbors, it was almost like what was that Chevy Chase movie? They're like Cue the Deer when they were selling the house, and they had the whole town help them get ready to sell their house because they wanted them out. And in this case, it was like we moved in, and here's like a mom and her 3 kids, all with their helmets on, riding their bikes down the street saying, "Welcome to the neighborhood." And I thought, okay, who's playing this game? Yeah. And then one of the neighbors said, "Welcome to the bubble." I'm like, what's the bubble? Now I know what the bubble is. It's just like this little village of nice people who are happy to be there. And
it's true.
It really is interesting.
There's a lot of energy, all positive.
Yeah, it really, really is. It's been very nice. So, well, I really appreciate you having this conversation with me. Like I said, I've been a fan from afar for many years. My joking comment was, it seems like today when I compete with people, I don't even necessarily know. And maybe it's just the evolution process. Probably same thing with you. Like somebody calls you for a project, you're probably not saying, well, what other architects are you talking to? You're probably like, okay, let's just take this and we'll see where it goes. And this is how we do it. And either they kind of opt in or out, right? And in my world today, it's kind of the same thing. I have my own independent conversations with people and see if we're a fit. And I'm not asking them how many people are you talking to. In many cases, they've been referred or it's repeat. And I don't even do a lot of those things anymore. But back in the early days, when we did compete, I would be looking around going, okay, it's Spivey and it's Gedham and it's Case and Steve Gray. And I always remember that Steve Gray had done some stuff with you. I'm like, Steve Gray's doing all this cool stuff. It was really funny back in the day that when we worried about those things. And now over the years, I kind of came to the appreciation that, man, if somebody's doing a project with one of those companies, they're good people doing good projects. And that's really all we want, is that they're using reputable people.
Exactly.
And that they're finding the right fit. So I always tell people, you talk to whoever you want, you'll know your fit when you find them. And I always say we kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince, and we date people, and eventually somebody says you're the one, and we get married, and then we spend our months together, and hopefully then we just do them for years to come. Yeah. So I think it's cool to see people that last in the business, and I think that's a really significant sign in my mind of having a good reputation. In other words, like you said, this is a tough business. And if you're able to stand the test of time and continue doing projects for people and they want you to do them and they like having you back, then that really says something. And I know your reputation in this business is absolutely impeccable. And some of the people that I most respect in the business, and that when I have a question I go to, if I have a question about something, I'm picking up the phone and calling the Haas folks and saying, you done something like this? Who do you call? We're doing one now, or we're finishing one over on Eagle Creek, and they had this really unique texture on the walls, kind of a Mediterranean stucco-ish thing, but it was very unique. And I'm like, Nigel, I got something that we can't even match. And he's like, here you go. Call this person. Yeah, there you go. Sends me the name.
Nigel's there. That's what we are.
That's what it is, right? That is completely what it is. And I know that you very much have that reputation. So
you met real quick. Yeah. You mentioning standing the test of time. I recently tore down a house that I had designed 25 years ago and built a new house on the property. So that's the first clue. I've been in this business too long.
Isn't that funny?
And secondly, I have 5 clients right now that are the kids of my clients 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
And it's just like, oh my God, keep going, Gary.
I know. Well, that's what
I just want to start doing grandkids. Then I know.
Then you're there. Yeah. You can imagine how teachers feel when they have the parent and then they have the child, and then and
they come in back. And these kids are coming in with their kids. Yeah. Like we just had one just before this meeting. And she's almost 2 years old. And I remember going to their wedding. It's like, oh my God.
That's the experiences that we're getting now. We did their kitchen with scope creep or their big master bath in our early days. And now they've moved out of that home, they've downsized, and they're calling us back to do their kitchen in their new place that's smaller or whatever the case might be. So we're seeing it. We haven't done any tear downs and rebuilds of any, that one. That would be tougher. That would be interesting to have to tear one down, but to get to do it over again.
Because I remember I did it for a guy at Ice Miller. And then my son was dating, ended up being his wife, and her family bought the house after the original owner. And I remember taking Nick, driving him over there, and I'm like, oh my God, Nick, I did this house. So, it ended up being that connection. Yeah. And then the next buyer ended up tearing the thing down and then
starting it over.
It's just like, oh my God.
That's crazy.
But anyway.
Very good. Well, thank you again.
Thank
very,
you.
very much.
This was
really
great.
Appreciate it.
It's kind of an exciting thing to do. Well, not kind of, it is.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the opportunity and the honor to do it with you.
No, thank you. I hope a lot of people get to listen to this and get to hear a little bit about your story and the things that you've overcome. But I mean, the overcoming things is, man, I look at you and I can't even believe, if you told me at one point that you weighed you weighed 300 pounds and that you almost died of COVID and then look the way you do today. I'm gonna tell my wife, she's got hope. I'll swell up and look good for her someday. And she's going to be like, go ahead and look like Gary.
I did save one pair of pants so I can fit in one leg.
There you go. Perfect.
Oh God, and then, now it's been fun.
That's great.
It's all good. It's going to be a wild summer for us.
Yeah. Well, enjoy. Thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate
it.
Have
a good
Thanks.
one.
Do you have a home remodeling question? Or would you like to know what the best remodeling plan would be to fit your lifestyle? Submit your questions now at lifestylegroup.com, and we may answer them on a future episode. Stay tuned to see what advice the Lifestyle Group has for you on the next episode of the Do You Plan podcast.